Hey, Bobby Bauer with Rocky Mountain Rafts. I'm here at the world headquarters in Noongahly River Country, West Virginia. We're going to show you how to put a frame together today. Hey, I want to show you some of the basic tools you need to put together an RMR frame. A rubber hammer is really nice. You can also use a piece of wood, 2x4 if you don't have one handy. This is important, 1/2-inch bolts, a socket, open-ended wrench, or a crescent wrench, whatever you have handy. You also want to have a 3/16 Allen wrench. They make several sizes and shapes. Just make sure they're 3/16. Hey, the first thing you want to do after you get your frame out of the box is you want to lay out all of the pieces. I like to start out with the loop ends with your spuds. If you notice, there are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. Your side rails will also be corresponding numbers, so you want to make sure you lay it out in order. Obviously, number 1 goes to number 1, number 2, and so on. The crossbars will line up with the speed rail fittings, and the KICKBAR does the same. So once I lay it out and figure out which end is what's the front, what's the back, you can get all your pieces together, and it's going to make the frame assembly go much smoother. I like to start out with the crossbars and your side rails. You have to insert the crossbars into the first side rail. It's handy to have 2 people, but you can definitely do this by yourself. You can use cam straps as helpers or cheaters if you like. But the first thing I do is make my basic box with the crossbars and the side rails. Your oar towers can be turned inside or outside depending on your personal preference. The next thing I want to do is take my hoop end. You want to make sure number 1 again goes with number 1. Number 4 will go to number 4. The spud end goes into the opening, and it's nice to try to work it back and forth evenly to get a nice snug fit. The next step will be doing the opposite on the other side. And then you have a 1/2-inch bolt with a nylon washer. You put that in. And just finger tighten it at first. Repeat that step 4 times on all 4 corners. Okay, this is where you break out your 1/2-inch open-end wrench and socket. Makes it a little quicker to use the socket. Just righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Next step is to install the oar sections or towers. And we have 2 ways you can do it on the RMR frames. You can run the speed rail in where you can offset the towers to your angle, or set it up on the outside and run them more straight up and down. Depending on what boat you have and your personal preference, if you're going to row off the seat, you want to probably keep your oar towers at the length that they come standard. If you want to lower your center of gravity and row off a piece of poly deck or a low cooler, you can trim these off. Just make sure that you deep burr it well, and when you insert your tower, don't let it drop down below the speed rail. It'll rub on your boat and you'll cause trouble down the road. After I insert the oar tower, again, I want to make sure it's up off the bottom. You don't want the bottom of the oar tower to hit the boat, so about 1/4 of an inch, and I'll tighten down the Allen bolts. This will set it. I personally like the openings to be towards me. That way I can see the split ring and how it's holding up after I insert the oar lock. And you want to tighten these down as tight as you can get it in 1/4 more turn. To really get a crank on it, you can take your opened end wrench and use it as leverage and get an extra oomph on it. It tightens them up really good and secure. There is a lot of fine tuning you have to do to the frame, so once you get it on the boat, on the river, don't forget to put your tools in your dry bag or your ammo can. You're going to want to adjust this thing to get it fine tuned to where you want it to be. The foot bar, the seat bar, the oar towers. It takes a couple of trips to get it dialed in just right. Hey, just a couple of side notes. When you're finished the basic assembly, you're going to adjust your foot bar. There are pre-drilled holes on the speed rail fittings. Some people like to use a pin clip system. Some people will just simply tighten down the Allen bolts. So again, personal preference, but the frame's there. I personally will adjust the kick bar and use the Allen bolts and call it good. But you can go either direction. Another key piece of the puzzle to assembling the frame is to get your desired oar lock into the oar tower. If you look down inside the hole, you have a small hole inside this access panel, and there are split rings that typically come with your oar tower. I like to take a pair of needle nose pliers, grab a hold of that, and give it a big tweak to where you can start it a little bit easier. Again, I like to start out with a pair of good needle nose pliers, get it started. Once you get the initial bite, so to speak, then I'll take my needle nose and work it in a circle through the oar tower until you have a successful lock in place. Here at Rocky Mountain Rafts Frame Shop, we are doing custom poly deck. This is a high density plastic, stuff's bomber, it's slick. It makes a really nice seat, a hatch cover, or a place to lay out and grab some rays. These things are cut custom for the frame that you bought. So when you get the poly deck out of the box, you need to adjust the speed rail to where the notches will fit in and the curvature kind of matches the frame. I recommend using a 1-foot cam strap. I simply run it through the pre-cut holes. Take your tag end, nice and tight, repeat on all 4 corners. Some people like to run it with a drop sack underneath. The poly deck will actually uses a lid so your stuff doesn't fall out if the boat goes upside down. If you ordered a Rocky Mountain Raft frame with the low back seat, there's a couple handy tips you can do for seat installation. The first thing is this: do not remove under penalty of law. Actually, this is a warning from the manufacturer not to over tighten the bolts. It will void your warranty. Lay that aside. Little handy tip, maybe a little WD-40 sprayed into each bolt hole. The bolts and the lock washers are located in the handy dandy little pocket there on the bottom of the seat. Lay those out. I like to take the hoop bar with our custom mounts. These have all been pre-assembled and tested and double checked to make sure that the holes will line up with the seat. So you shouldn't have any problem. You just want to take it slow, get it lined up the first time. Take your 1/2-inch bolts. You can feel it when they start to bite. Just finger tighten. I go from one corner, opposite corner. Never tighten up one until all 4 bolts are in place. And these are all spinning nice and free. If you're having to force them, you should probably back them out and try again. Once you finger tighten it, again, get your 1/2-inch socket. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Be careful not to over tighten them. You want it to be snug, but you don't have to put a crowbar on it. Once you have your RMR frame all put together, you want to put it on your RMR raft. These frames are built specifically for the raft that you bought, although they'll fit on any brand out there. You just want to check out the size and spec sheet on RockyMountainRafts.com. But how I like to strap it down is using 4 4-foot cam straps, 1 on each corner. So I'll grab my cam buckle strap. Again, the prettier that you can make the wrap, the better. I'll take the buckle end up through our stainless steel D-rings. I personally like to do a full lat wrap around the frame, keeping it nice and smooth without any bends or twists. Take the tag end And I like to pull down. Some people like to pull up. Typically when I first start setting up my frame, I'm gonna kind of center the oar tower with the bulkhead. You can see a small crease on the boat. I'll usually start out at the center point, and then I can move myself, but my oar tower further backwards, depending on how I feel once I get out on the water. But I'll crank these things just a little tight until I put the oars in, and then I can tighten them up all the way. All right, gang, once you've got your frame all put together, strap it down, get it out on the river. Don't forget your tools. Once again, it sucks to get out there and not be able to work the kinks out. You're gonna wanna move your oar towers, your seat, however, your kick bar. Get comfortable. Just go out there and have fun, get after it.